at a workshop a while ago, at some point we're going to have to go to the community and say, we've got very limited options along there, as we've explained, and we could basically have a walkway along the coastal side, but then there'd be no parking on that side of the road and the issues that has, or we could go to a one-way system around that, or we could do nothing, and they're perhaps the only three viable options. We want to do that, but we'd probably, and we'll never get agreement by the total community regardless of which of those options are, but at some point, if we're going to do something, we're going to have to go out and ask them.
Could we discuss that at the next workshop then, so that the councillors are perhaps more familiar with the options?
Yep. I can bring a few pictures along to show you.
That would be good.
Yep.
Thank you. Just one other thing. Do you think we could get a discount on or buy in bulk soap dispensers? This is a bit of change. There's so much vandalism within the amenities. And, we
do tend to buy them in lots of, well, both the refills and the soap dispensers. We buy in lots of 10s and 20s.
Really?
Yeah. So because we run them out and then reorder anyway. But I'll certainly ask if they're going to give us a discount for the number that we're running through, but we'll see what they say. I mean, I am encouraged, because I go to a few other communities, and at least ours have got, if they're not vandalised, at least we've got soap at our facilities, which I'm somewhat reassured, because there's plenty that haven't.
Is a major problem, but it is good having it listed there because it really drives the fact home of just how much petty vandalism there is of the public amenities, mainly the parks.
Yeah, every meeting.
Every meeting.
Through the Mayor, on page 21 in assets, it's got beach access portion from off the Dodgers Ferry Loop capital job has been reorganised due to lack of tenders. Do we know why there would have been such low demand?
Yeah, basically most contracting firms have basically committed this year. So we're probably too late out in the financial. There'll probably be another opportunity. I think we're out at the moment after we've simplified the design, but at this stage, most people have filled their program for this financial year. So unless you happen to find a slot where they finished the job early, there's very little interest in, and most of them have a fairly full book at the moment. Which is why we like to get out early in the year and say to the contractors, you tell us when during the year you can get it done, which is much more successful than trying to pin them into a given quarter or month.
I was hoping it was that and not issues with the actual work. So.
No, it's just basically they're all full. And I think I've discussed at the last meeting is we're getting a number of requests because of obviously petrol prices and various other things trying to hit us with raises after we've signed contracts, but there's no rise and fall on our contracts. So they may hit us in variations, but they can't hit us in rise and fall for the price they put in initially.
Thank you.
No other questions on those departmental reports? I shall put the reports for acceptance. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. 9.0 is petitions, and we do have as 9.1 a petition on the replacement of the steps at Red Oak Beach. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Reid, and a seconder is Councillor Nichols. This report was, or petition was organised before my meeting with several representatives down at the beach, so some of the wording and is probably not 100% correct, but the intention is all there, and even in the recommendation where it requests for steps and so forth, it might well end up being a ramp because we don't know if we're going to build access. We have to build it in, but I'd open the floor up for discussion before we accept this petition.
Through the Mayor, just like to make a statement, really. I fully endorse this petition and commend the petitioners on their actions. 118 community members have asked for, and I quote, new steps at Red Oak Beach. The speed at which these historical steps were removed from use was astounding and belies the reputation of a government department. I only hope that this council can restore the asset in a timely manner, and while these steps do not command the same level of priority as a failing bridge, they are nevertheless important to residents of Southern Beaches and will contribute towards maintaining a safe and accessible coastline. So they're definitely a green hand from me.
And you didn't bring your green hand along,
I did.
did you? Well, there it is, there's the green hand. Yes.
The re-emergence of the green hand.
As stated several times beforehand, to have a beach that is utilised that without a proper access is as bad as having probably the old steps there in some respect, because you end up with a lot more damage to the foreshore and everything. Council has accepted that. And at the moment, our engineering department, as well as the general manager, have been down to inspect that in the process of this petition happening. But we do have to look at the best way. Steps were very limited, very steep, very hard to do legally. I'm not an expert in that area, but the feeling I think that I'm getting from the engineering department is that we will look at whether it's a ramp or whether it's steps, and that's been conveyed to some of the people involved with this. We are at present negotiating with the Aboriginal community, because they still pull red ochre from that area, is my understanding. And there are some key points on the foreshore to make sure that it's as unintrusive as possible, and work is progressing in that area. Is that anything you need to add to that, Russell? Or?
No, I think Adam and Anthony were down there doing the survey, and we might be able to use some of the wood that we pulled out of Sunnyside Bridge to form the runners for the platform, because certainly Michael Paxton, on behalf of the Aboriginal community, was looking for as much El Natural feel and look to whatever we do, so it doesn't look, because there's some dead trees along that foreshore that people put there either to protect it or that's where they've ended up. So if we can sort of fit in with that in terms of the look and feel, then it's preferable from the stakeholders we've been dealing with.
And as always, it is council's responsibility to weigh up a decision and expenditure based on the overall project. There were some people that wanted a lot of the foreshore trees taken out to increase the parking at the top of the road, but to a lot of others that's a no-no.
Yeah.
The General Manager raised a very valid point after I pointed out about access from the road, so that all abilities can get down onto the beach if required. And as the General Manager correctly pointed out, we'd have to take a lease over that, and there is some maintenance and drainage issues with that road that will be fixed, but it all comes at a cost, and to make sure that it's done in a way that minimises the impact onto that area and is still sensible for vehicle movement. So it's not just a matter of slapping the steps back in, as we're trying to do it properly, but it is proceeding at this point, and council will be kept up to date as that comes through to the engineering department. Councillor Reid.
I too commend the petitioners, because it's great to see community engagement in any form, and it's great to see that many members of the community engaged in this issue. And it's good to hear that it's underway. Finally, it's underway. One of the suggestions has been to not, as you're saying, perhaps not just putting steps back where they were, but look at the broader area and the sandy end of the access rather than the steep part of the access. So whatever is done, I hope it takes all of those options into consideration and we aren't just creating another problem by putting the access where it has been, if that's actually going to be, if there's a better option somewhere else.
Yeah. I'm happy to bring the concept back to council.
Yeah. So looking forward to that.
Actually, if I could just say, I was of the understanding that we either accept the report tonight and then at the following meeting we get the report, and that's where the discussion is usually held. So if we get the report next meeting, we can have a further discussion.
Right. So everybody's up to date now and understand. Thank you. Any other comments on the petition? No, I shall put the motion for acceptance. All those in favour? Thank you. Point 0, land use planning. The Mayor advises in accordance with provisions Part 2 Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation 2015, the intention of the Council to act as a planning authority pursuant to the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 is to be noted. In accordance with Regulation 25, the Council will act as a planning authority in respect to those matters appearing under item 10 on this agenda, inclusive of any supplementary items. 10.1 is the DAS minutes from the 29th of March. Move it, please. Councillor Trenius, thank you, and a second, Councillor Reid. Any adjustments or comments on those minutes? No, thank you. I shall put that motion acceptance of those minutes. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. 14.1 is finance, the executive summary, financial report, March 2022. Move it, please. Councillor Nichols and Councillor Reid as a seconder. And any comment on those? There's a few timing issues I noticed there, but otherwise still fairly very tidy in the reporting on it all. Open the floor for discussion.
Through you, Mayor.
Yes.
The only one that really jumps out is the Bryans Road, which is one of those things that you don't know what you're dealing with until you look. So it's proven very expensive.
No, it's a good part of the report actually, because it breaks down the overs and unders of those different adjustments needed in design and costs, and it's transparent, it's open, and we can, you don't have to be an engineering expert to understand where and why there, so that part of it's very good.
I'd just like to make the comment that the reports are very comprehensive, which leaves us very little questions to ask. It'd be nice to be able to ask a few, but it explains everything in the report, which is probably the best way to go anyway.
There for everybody to see.
So,
Councillor Jackson.
The savings I can see through the electricity, has some of that been made by the change to the LEDs that they went through last financial year and things like that, like the actual cost savings in terms of what we're paying back?
Yeah, through me, they're certainly proving to be more efficient to run, but also the contracts we're entering into through the LJT, the actual metering side of things, is also providing some savings as well. So the LJT engages specialist consultants to effectively negotiate the best contract terms for the supply of all our power. Mark, I think it's from Goan Energy, who's an independent energy.
Mark White, isn't it?
Mark White, that's how I take it, Mark White. So they're commissioned by the LJT to seek out these deals, and then we all sign up to them. So that's, I think, for this current financial year, it was, when we last did it, it was in the order of, I think, $40,000 worth of savings we're going to get. So it's a really good process for us.
We get to a lot of procurement deals based on what other local government bodies are doing around Australia as well, and they couple on some or do others a little bit independently, but even on machinery, it saves us a lot of man hours on processing tender documents, and that when it can be simplified through the local government association, so it's a big advantage.
Through you, Mayor, that just commissioned New South Wales, have a look at the way they do it, with ideas of what we could do further in Tassie through the LGAT procurement committee.
Any other questions on the financial report at all? Right, thank you. So I shall put the financial report for acceptance. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. And as we don't have any members of the public here tonight, we have no real need for questions from the public. So with that, I shall close tonight's meeting and we shall head shortly into a closed session. Thank you.